up next. Morenkeji Abiona is a tech-focused HR professional with a passion for talent acquisition and team building. Since pivoting from linguistics into HR in 2019, she's helped top tech companies attract and retain high-performing talents. Beyond work, she mentors, speaks, and shares knowledge to empower young professionals and loves to dance, even if not perfectly. Alison specializes in crafting digital experiences that drive tangible business results beyond just dazzling users. She has a goal, and it is to chart a course that not only meets user needs but also fuels business growth. One of her superpowers is translating geek speak and business jargon into visual concepts that everyone can get behind. Kirshen Naidoo is the CEO and founder of GIG Engineer, an engineering-first platform redefining how engineering work gets done. With a passion for innovation and agile solutions, he helps companies scale teams instantly with top engineering talent. An MBA grad, engineer, and Star Wars fan, he believes in playing big and building the future of work.
Hi, Alison. Hi, Kirshen. Please, could you teach me how to pronounce your name?
It's Kirshen.
Kirshen. Okay, nice to meet you.
That's it.
Nice to meet you, Alison. How are you both doing today?
I'm great, thanks. And you?
I'm doing fantastic. Alison, how about you?
I'm good. It's been a long day, but I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I hope the day gets better. All right. Thank you so much for doing this. And for those listening on this call, our discussion today is going to be centered around how companies can develop and retain top talent. We live in a world, in a changing landscape where people are trying to, particularly professionals, they're trying to earn more, and you find out that recruiters are putting, or company leaders are putting so much effort into training employees, but at the sight of a better offer, someone is moving somewhere else. So based on different reasons, so we need to think about how we can balance development and also still retaining top talent. So I will start with Kirshen, and I want to understand, in your experience as a founder/employer, what is one key strategy that you've used to retain top talent, especially in a competitive industry like tech?
Sure. So Gig Engineer, we operate in the engineering space that encompasses, all kinds of engineers, and we connect companies with an on-demand engineering talent pool. So for us, we get access to different types of companies that are hiring different engineers, and gives us insights into what really motivates engineers to stay at companies. I think that's key in with many companies retaining talent. Trying to really understand what motivates the sort of workforce or the engineers to work for those companies. I think these days, having that understanding allows companies to structure strategies and packages and incentives that keep talent engaged and committed to the company. And this can vary depending on the stage of where somebody is in their career. So, more junior engineer may want access to interesting opportunities, things that challenge them, exciting projects that they can work on, that they can grow and learn from, perhaps more so than, just remuneration as an incentive, where somebody that's perhaps later on maybe looking at, work-life balance, if they've got kids or family, if they enjoy traveling, and access to maybe global opportunities, while somebody at a later stage may want, is not so interested in challenging projects, but may want to work on projects where they can transfer knowledge or add value. So I think the key is keeping engineers engaged, keeping them motivated, and also valuing their contributions. I think that goes a long way in keeping and retaining talent.
Thank you, Kirshen. I think that's very insightful. You mentioned first understanding what motivates these employees, then centering incentives around that as much as possible. And I think that's very key. Thank you so much. So this time I'm going to be asking Alison that question, but from a reverse perspective. So you're a senior product designer at MoniePoint Group, and it's a company everyone wants to work in. From your perspective as a top talent, what would you say is that one thing that keeps high performance engaged beyond compensation? What are top talents really looking for from their employers in today's world of work?
Okay, thank you, Michelle. I know you said one thing, but I have 6 things. I hope that's fine. Oh, happens. Yeah, so I think first thing to note is that the higher you go in your career, the less money matters. This is not to say that money is not important. It is, but I don't think that at least for most of the people who I have been able to speak to as well, including myself, money tends to matter a little less the higher that you go in your career. I think the first and most important thing that high performers are looking out for is seeing the actual impact of their work. So it's very important that they know that they are putting the needle on something that actually matters. So when there's a direct line from your actual input, your efforts to the real outcome in the market or for users, those people tend to stay deeper. I've seen a lot of people who have left companies that have paid them like probably their highest salaries just because after a while you lose your sense of self and you lose the motivation to keep working at that company because they're not launching what they're working on, or just something goes wrong and they tend to always appreciate the features that you're always constantly working on. Second thing is autonomy. I think it's also a very important factor, and top talents usually tend to know their craft and they need the space to be able to apply that expertise without some kind of excessive oversight or micromanagement. And if companies are able to set out clear objectives but allow flexibility in execution, you see that those companies tend to keep their best people engaged longer. And it's difficult to poach engineers or any talent actually from these companies because the engineers have almost complete autonomy with their product and it's just easy to work with. Third thing is growth opportunities. You basically would see that high performers are driven by mastery. They basically want to keep developing their skills and taking on new challenges. Now, sometimes this doesn't always mean promotion. It can actually be like expanding, horizontally into new areas or diving deeper into specialty. For example, you see that somebody who has been a senior product designer but has done mostly visual design in their role will want to take up more research tasks or take up more UX writing or take up usability testing or take up even implementation or whatever. I know I said, okay, I've lost count, but another one, whatever number this is actually the quality of the team. And I know that this is probably number 4, but I think it should have been number 1 because employees tend to feed off energy from other employees. So if somebody is talented, they want to be able to work with other talented people who kind of push them to be better. It's like a magnetic effect. When you have like a small or large group of high performers working together, they are able to actually create a culture of excellence that is kind of hard to leave. So you see people just be like, oh, I'm at this company because of who I get to work with. They're really amazing people. Another thing that I think is extremely underrated with high performers is leadership. And the leadership actually can make or break or, top talent engagement with the company because as somebody who knows what you're doing, you kind of expect your leaders to be as competent, if not more competent, and you expect them to be transparent and you expect them to be genuinely invested in both the work that you're doing and the people who are doing the work. So yeah, you'll probably see people leave companies because of their managers or other people who are in business or in C-level, stuff like that. I don't know what number I am in. What is the last one? I think it is purpose alignment. People as you go higher, like I mentioned, money tends to matter less. And what is more important is actually working on problems that you actually find meaningful. And of course, this definition kind of varies from person to person. It might be a technical challenge, it might be social impact, maybe market potential, but the work needs to matter in a way that resonates with each person's personal values. And it doesn't mean that the company, if the people leave because company is doing rubbish. It's just that the values of that company might not really resonate with that person at that time. But yeah, in summary, I feel like right now these non-financial factors are becoming more critical and tech become more important for people the higher that they grow in their careers. But yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Alison. And I think I want to get Kirshen's perspective on this. So from a founder perspective, what do you think, particularly the leadership reason? You know, she mentioned something that leadership is also another reason, or how the leaders of the organization are. That's another reason people could stay or leave. What do you think around that from a leader perspective?
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Leadership aspects is very important. I agree with quite a lot of what Alison said regarding, understanding what incentivizes the people. And as you get older, the less important money becomes, and they look for other factors in terms of that. From a leadership perspective, I would say, also to the point of high performance teams, when somebody joins a high performance team, it elevates them to a high level. When somebody joins a low performance team, they get, they sort of go down to that level at the culture. So I would say, I've held quite senior positions in the companies before I decided to become a founder. And what you find is that very often leadership dictates a lot of the culture in the organization. And that culture can be, it can be a high performance culture. It can be a range of cultures. I think more often than not these days, you end up with a lot of these corporates having very toxic cultures for some reason or another. And I think from a leadership perspective, in a startup, it's also quite a different setup, but you find some of the biggest companies running things like a startup, especially in the tech space. If you look at, companies like the way Apple and Google and NVIDIA and stuff, seem to operate. So very flat structures. In terms of leadership styles, without getting too technical, is, there's different types of leadership styles. I think there's probably 2 or 3 leadership styles that I identify with that I think contributes to developing that kind of culture and having that coherence in a team. One is, you can say, authentic leadership. So developing a culture of psychological safety where people can trust each other. That's a critical factor of high performance teams. This is actually from a study developed by Google as well. So authentic leadership. The other one is transformational leadership. Identifying a vision of where you want to take the company, especially in a startup space. It's very important that everybody is aligned to this goal or believes in this kind of vision, so they know where they're going, and working together to achieve that. In that kind of leadership style. And the third one would be coaching. Where there's problems that you need to tackle on a daily basis. How do you tackle that together with a team? So I think those kind of things have been very important in the way we operate. Although, we're still in a startup in the space, but I would say the fact that everybody is working together, really believes in what we're doing, because that's what you need in a team. You need believers. If the organization don't believe in what you're doing, that's a sign that there's something wrong, either in the leadership or the culture. And just to close that point, a lot of companies spend a lot of time on strategies and vision and all of these nice and fancy things and a lot of money trying to execute that. But you speak to anyone on the ground and you ask them one or two questions. What's the vision of the company? What is the values of this company? And what is the, what's the strategy of this company? And I'll tell you, 90% of the people you speak to in big corporates, they either know one out of the three or zero. So, that's also telling of the kind of leadership and the importance of it, in an organization. That's my view.
That's very insightful. Thank you so much, Kirshen. So I would ask you another question. And I think this is a very important one that people listening will want to know. So in your years, in your life as a founder or employee, how do you strike a balance between hiring externally for new skills or upskilling existing team members? So say, for example, you need a particular job done, or there's a vision you want to execute in your organization that needs a required set of skills, or you don't have those people available. So how do you strike a balance between hiring externally every time you need new skills or upskilling existing team members?
Yes. So the whole business model around gig engineer is to make companies more agile. And that means instead of sitting with a very static workforce, you're able to adapt to market conditions and business needs. And you can say in engineering, every project is different. It's impossible to have all those skills in-house. So I would say, businesses are there to be agile, to respond to market conditions and be able to adapt to them. So from a project perspective, companies should hire the best people for the project or the job that they need to get done. And if that's in-house, great. If it's not, they should hire skills externally or go into the market. That's good for the market because you have access to skills when you need them and finding the right person versus trying to retrofit somebody to a project. I think very often that happens where, a company finds somebody that's not as skilled, just that's perhaps more available than the best person for the job, and they end up fitting that. And that never really, that never improves the result on a project, for the company or for clients. So I would say, that balance in terms of hiring internally or externally comes from the business needs or project needs at a project level, because that's how companies operates in the engineering space. It's primarily project driven. And then in terms of upskilling, I would say that is a long-term commitment from both sides. There's a commitment from the people that work there that they are committed to improving their skills, and it's a commitment for the company to be able to upskill people. And that should be driven by the business need to say, these are the types of skills that we need in-house, where this is what we have, these are the gaps, and this is where we need to invest in the longer term, to upskill people, but also to retain them.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you for that. Thank you. And speaking of upskilling, I would move to Alison now. So we find that a lot of, or some organizations are yet to cement themselves when it comes to taking employee growth seriously or investing in their growth. So I want to understand, in your career journey, do you have any moment where a company made a last impression on you through the way they invested in your growth? And if yes, you want to share a little bit on it?
Yeah, there has been a couple. I think I've probably been one of the most fortunate people with employers because for most of my career, I have worked at the best companies with the best teams and best managers. I know that this is not the same for everybody, but I think I want to acknowledge the people. So if you're one of the people who has invested in my growth, shout out to you. But I think the one I want to mention is with my this was actually earlier in my career, and there were the points where I was kind of transitioning from just visual design to more product design. and I was struggling with user research. We did have an optimization going on, and that was kind of take charge on, but I didn't have enough research experience. I knew the theory of things, but I hadn't done actual practical. I was struggling with it. And my director at the time could have easily just said, "Oh, work with one of the researchers." Because we did have researchers on the team. Work with some of the senior researchers on the team and figure it out. Or she could have just said, "Oh, you know what? You're already great with visual design. Just keep doing that." But she actually pushed me to take full ownership of that. Now, in retrospect, this was of course because I had shown potential of being able to find windows when the doors were shut, and I had shown that I was able to take up this challenge. So this is, I don't know if it's an exception or the norm or whatever, but this is exactly what happened. And she put me all in and just said, figure it out. But the part that makes this unique is that we did have off the record retrospect where she would call me at the end of each session and say, "Oh, tell me how it went." And I'll just talk her through like, "Oh, these are interviews that I did, who I spoke to, what I asked them." And then she would basically try to walk me through my thought process and then be like, "Oh, what would you do differently now that you know this? Or now that you see that there's a criteria for selecting participants for user research, what would you do the next time?" So this was very special to me because she's a director. She's extremely busy. She has management breathing down her throat with deadlines and everything, but she still found time to help me with that. And of course, it was a 2 people thing. I was able to catch up really quick, and in under a month, I was basically conducting interviews like I studied in a school. So that was one time. I know that she absolutely did not have to do that. In fact, it would have been way easier for her to just ask me to keep doing what I was doing. But I appreciate the time that she put into it. And I'm sure, of course, she did that because she did see potential with my previous work and previous commitments. So yeah, that was the moment for me.
I think that's very beautiful. What she did, and what I hear you say is she was willing to throw you into the water, but she was present as a guide if ever you're drowning or you need someone to hold you. And I think that's a beautiful thing that leaders should have. It just creates a beautiful experience for the employees. And then, of course, you also did the work to not let our expectations down. So thank you so much for that. So I will move to the next question because of time. And this is for both of you. So maybe Alison can go first or Kirshen can go first. What are some practical ways that you think, I know you've shared things around just ensuring that we can develop and retain talent. But now, what are some practical ways that company can foster a culture where learning is continuous and not just something that is checked during appraisals or performance reviews? I don't know who wants to go first.
Okay, I will go first. I'm going first. Okay, not this, not why, but like I have noticed that companies do these things where they buy Udemy subscriptions. Can I just say, on behalf of all the employees, nobody means that. We take the courses, but I think it's only a small percentage of people who actually take the learnings from these courses in their workflow or for whatever experience it is. Just because of the way that it's structured and the workload we have to do our work, it's more of a requirement, to be very honest. So say for that to the employers who invest in that, love you, but it doesn't really work. I think what works is making learning part of a daily workflow instead of something that is like extra.
Okay.
And it's something that we do at MoniePoint where, or not just MoniePoint, other companies do it, of course, but it's where you basically do like 15 minutes skill shares before maybe major sprint planning. Say, for example, we are trying to do optimization for the UX flow for, let's say, transfers. And there are core skills that are necessary, maybe with user research, with visual design or a prototyping. You could do like some skill shares before the sprint planning. Or if you want to dedicate maybe like an hour every Friday to kind of explore new tools together or explore, for example, now that AI is in the market, there's a lot of tools like Lovable. Just have a not physical, but like an interactive session with everybody on the call. And it's nothing too dramatic. It would be like every Friday, 1 hour, or every other Friday, or once a month or twice a month. If you work hybrid or on site, even more perfect because now you're seeing everybody in person. And it just kind of normalizes learning as part of the job because you're taking not just the courses, but you're also applying it to the process. And it doesn't see that learning as like a separate thing from that. So some of the best places that I've actually seen this implemented tend to build feedback loops for everything. So it's not just like, oh, did you do the Udemy before 14th of June? Check. Great. It's that you are able to, what's the word? Take the learning that you actually done and done it in practical. And the best way to do this is usually before sprints because it's not just that, oh, I have this list of backlog to do, but I also have to take this course on something that's not related to, well, now that I think about it, that's not a good answer. But you get the point. So yes, the ability are able to see the practical aspects of things because you are kind of applying into the process and it feels like learning is part of your job. You are able to integrate learning into the backlog because it's like some kind of immediate what's the word? Impact. I don't know if that makes sense. But yeah. And I think another thing that works is creating safety around mistakes. So now this is not the question you asked me. I feel like I'm diverting from initial.
I think you're very insightful, or maybe we can come back to that. I would love to hear what kept there.
We probably will come back to that. But yeah, I think it's just the structure currently with some companies is a little too rigid and a little too abstract. So people just see, you probably see, those of you in the comments probably are even victims or perpetrators of this act where you would see that your company set a deadline for end of next month and you would wait till like the week before the deadline so that you can finish your courses and you know you have that you actually didn't learn anything from that, but it's more like a checklist and you take notes that you never go back to, but it would help both the company and you if you are taking it like you're taking a course and then applying it to your work or that you have to do. But yeah, that would be my answer.
Very insightful. Thank you so much. Quickly, Kirshen, do you have anything else you want to add to that?
Not really. I think Alison said raised quite a lot of points, especially the last one. Studying something for the sake of something, studying doesn't really work. You need to be able to apply what you're learning to your day-to-day stuff. And that catchphrase that's going around is that AI won't replace people. It'll be somebody that's using AI that will replace them. So the importance of that for a continuous improvement. I mean, we should be studying something in AI. Otherwise, the risk is that you become irrelevant and you don't have a job. So
yeah. Okay, thank you for that. I like the way you phrased it, piggybacking off what Alison said, where you said, don't study for the purpose of studying, study to apply it, right? And basically just ensure that you are remaining conversant with the trends in today's day and age. So because of time, I would have loved to ask you more questions, but I know you both are busy, so I have to let you go. But before you go, I want to put you on the hot seat a little, and there's no right or wrong answer. But I'll start with Kirshen. And I'm very sure the people listening want to know about Kirshen. So if you could have one superpower out of flying or being invisible, which would you choose and why?
flying.
Why?
Because everybody wants to be a Superman. So that's what I would choose.
Fair enough. Alison, how about you?
I don't think I want to fly. I think I want to be invisible. But my reasons are very unethical and I don't want it to be on the internet. So, yeah, I honestly would rather be invisible. I have so many things that I would do if I was invisible. But they're not internet worthy. So let's not make it okay? Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for sharing. And I must say, I had a fantastic time discussing with you too. And I'm very sure that everyone online also did. So please, if you have questions, feel free to send them in and we'll revert with the responses. And once again, thank you so much, Kirshen. Thank you so much, Alison. And we look forward to connecting with you again some other time.
Great. Thank you for having me.
All right. Bye.